Hello. Put on your cams, Glenn. Hello, the internet. Welcome to Dave Green's Street View Show. We're going live on YouTube and Facebook. My guest today is Glenn Moore, stand-up comedian and reader of the news on Absolute Radio. How are you doing, Glenn?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for coming on the show. Be careful not to lean on the table, by the way, because it does pick up on the
I'll be very cautious. I'll be very cautious.
Yeah. You just can't. You just
Can
have
I
to
move
stay in
my
that
way? No,
position.
I'm stuck now. Yeah.
Just stay in that position for the rest of the show. Hello, the internet. Dave Green's Street View Show, a virtual tour of different comedians' lives every week. Glenn Moore. Here he is. So where did you grow up, Glenn?
I grew up in Croydon in South London, in a place called Wallington or Beddington. And I lived there for about 18 years. And then my parents, about 2 weeks after my A-levels, were sort of like, in that brilliant summer holidays between like your A-levels and university, where you're sort of like, I've got 3 months of just no responsibility. I can do whatever I want, see my friends every day. They were like, we're going to move really, really far away for those 3 months. You're not going to be able to see anyone. So they moved to a place called Hurstpierpoint in West Sussex. And then I went to Sheffield Uni and I lived there for several years. And now I live in London.
Cool, man. So let's look at your first place, which is this.
Yeah.
So this is your Croydon.
This was 34 Raleigh Avenue on the right. This is the house I was brought up in. It looks very different. This is really weird for me because the last time I saw it was when I was 18 years old when I left, and I haven't looked it up since or anything like that. And I don't remember the doors looking like that. Or it was a nice road. It was really, really quiet, and it was fairly sort of just. It wasn't dull or anything like that, but it was quite sort of uneventful. But it's really strange seeing it because I spent 18 years there, like the majority of my life, but if someone had asked me to draw that house from memory, I wouldn't have been able to.
Yeah.
And so it was just this basically. It was just miles and miles of just identical suburbia, and you get like the occasional newsagents, but other than that, you could walk for miles and just see just houses like this, just the whole way through.
That is just like a child's drawing of a house, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's pretty much where I grew up, man.
Yeah.
Similar house. Not in your house. I had my own one.
All right. Okay. Yeah.
It's in a different place.
Next door, yeah.
Cool, man. So what do you do? Where else is there to look at?
So this is where I...
let me do the clicking, by the way.
Yeah, sure.
It's literally the only role I have in this show. So
okay, I don't want to reduce you.
You tell me.
Anything.
You tell me where to click.
So I had some really bad memories in that house on the left. That one with the window diagonally
sounds
facing
ominous.
us. Yeah.
All right, what happened?
Because a friend of mine, David, used to live there.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if he still does. But I remember once I went round for a sleepover. It was like when...
I'm not sure I like where this is going.
8 or 9 years old, when everyone sort of had... That's like the go-to birthday. Everyone sort of graduated from bowling, and now you're having sleepovers. And he was like, my dad's rented the Blair Witch Project. We're going to watch the Blair Witch Project. And I was so excited. And my dad walked me around the corner to go to the house, and his dad answered the door. And he was like, oh, Roger, the boys were going to watch Blair Witch Project. Is that all right? And my dad went, oh, I don't think that's really suitable. And then
how old were you? 13?
I was like 8,
Okay.
9 years old.
Oh,
so,
quite,
I mean, to be fair,
young.
like, it's
That's
not
quite
really a
young.
suitable
Yeah,
film, but
yeah.
we would have found it amazing. We would have had a great time.
Yeah.
And we were obsessed with horror films. And I always had been. But then my dad said bye, and then I was led into the living room. My friend's dad went, sorry, boys, Glenn's dad says we can't watch it. It was the worst.
He could have at least just made you stand outside the room.
horrible. Yeah. It was dreadful. I remember once I had...
I must have hated you.
They had this was like the year after they'd had like a Christmas party. And they'd invited like loads of their kids' friends and loads of their adult friends and stuff like that, and it was just a normal sort of get together, and my family insisted me and my sister dressed like really, really smartly for it, even though I was like, it's not my school for it. I had to wear like really smart black trousers and really smart black shoes. As soon as I got around there, everyone was sort of like, why are you wearing school shoes? And it was just humiliating. The whole thing was awful. So yeah, bad memories of that house.
So your parents quite strict then, though?
No,
just with films.
I think
parents
I
were
just
quite strict with
never.
films.
They weren't really strict, but I think I never thought to answer back to them at any point. I just always accepted. If they were reluctant for me to do something, then I just went, okay, fine, I won't do it. And I think I was way too obedient.
I hear you saying.
So, no, they were really weird about swearing in films, but absolutely fine with sex and violence in films. Like, I remember my dad showed me Terminator 2 when I was about 4. I remember that really, really vividly, and did he hear that there was loads of swearing in the Blair Witch Project?
Yeah. Is that what the issue is?
But
they just hate sticks.
It would because they'd seen the Blair Witch Project, so it was definitely more swearing than the horror element. It was so weird.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
So where do I go to the high street, by the way? Down here?
I've got no idea where this is. This is
I went the opposite way.
Actually, let's go back the other way. Back that way is Wallington High Street, which was the sort of main sort of town that in between. The two biggest places that it's in between are Sutton and Croydon. And Croydon's the one that everyone across the country's heard of, and Sutton sort of less so. So up this way, this is back on the road that was sort of adjacent to mine. I'd walk this way to school every day, and I'd meet my friend Wesley on the corner of this road just up here, in the centre, just on this junction. And we meet on this corner every day. And also the thing is, this is really bizarre. I used to give him 3 rings on the phone at a particular time every day to tell him I was leaving the house. But the thing is, it never had any correlation between how ready I was and when I'd be leaving the house. I used to just do it in a really arbitrary way. It must have. I found out years later that his parents got up quite late, so I'd woken up his parents every day for like 9 years. Really, really weird. He just accepted it. Yeah, I just ring up a landline. And that'd be. I was their alarm clock at wildly varying times for years.
What was your friend called again? Remind me of his name.
Wesley.
Was Wesley punctual to meet at the corner?
Wesley would often arrive when I'd rung, and then by the time I got there, he'd already gone ahead because he was.
So you were the late one.
I was the late one, definitely.
Because you're bringing back memories of when I used to always be on time, and then everyone else would be late. Then occasionally my mum would see me and go, "What are you doing? You left the house on time. Why are you waiting for these boys?"
Yeah,
they're making you late to school.
It would vary
and then,
quite
like your dad with a film, man. It would be embarrassing.
Yeah, because also
go on. And then after sorry guys, you're walking too slow, and then just run.
I should have just done, because now everyone would just text the person saying you're leaving. But even though we had phones, it was just text cost like £1 or something.
Yeah.
So I wasn't going to do that every day. So we used to walk up every day, and there were some really creepy woods on the left, and they didn't actually go anywhere. It was just there's a clearing through those trees. And it's just a long, long path that just leads to a dead end. So obviously there are rumours all the time. It was obviously a series of murders, around there. So we'd walk past that in a hurry. We'd go down this road to school every day. And again, look, it's just identical houses, just as far as the eye can see. Just there's not really much to sort of inspire you when you're sort of growing up somewhere like that. But it was pleasant enough. It was just a really sort of safe, quiet area. Again, this is really, really weird because I haven't been here for years. And the thing that was weird.
Is this the way you'd walk to school?
Yeah.
Should we go to your school?
Sure, let's do it. So you turn right here.
Pretend I'm Wesley.
Okay, so Wesley, if we just turn right here and take the route that we've taken every day for the past few years that you should remember.
Wait, let's wait at the cross.
Back the other way is a parade of shops that was known as Beddington Broadway, which I thought was way too sort of grand.
Down here, should we look at this?
Yeah. There was a. I wonder if there's still a. Yeah, that huge pub in the centre there was called The Plough, and it looks nice from the outside, but it was horrible on the inside. And I went there once with some friends, and me and my friends got there, and this guy immediately stopped us at the door, and he went, "How did it go?" And we went, "What?" And he went, "How did it go?" And we went, "We don't know what you're talking about." And he went, "The latest boy band auditions." And then him and his mates just laughed for ages, and it was like, it doesn't make any sense. Yeah. And we all look like me. Like I've never looked like anyone who's in a boy band.
There wasn't an audition, right? There was no.
Oh, we didn't get it. We didn't get the part. But yeah, there was nothing interesting there. Oh, there was a Blockbuster. And that closed down. That's now been replaced by Tina Nails,
of course.
And yeah, and I got my first ever kebab there.
In Tina's Nails?
No. A couple of doors down. Yeah,
that'd be
William
a good
Hill.
dual business.
I had
the boyfriends are waiting. Just get a cheeky kebab as well.
I have my first ever kebab, but like during the day, we had it was one of those days at school where it was like half a day, and I just really wanted a kebab.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it was a sober kebab.
Can't eat kebabs in the day. I eat kebab.
Well, because I was so intrigued by it, and I knew it was like a drunken thing, but I was like, I just want to know what it tastes like. Oh, I thought it was amazing. I loved it. I loved it so much that I went and had another one the next day, and it was disgusting. It was horrible.
Well, that's the thing with kebabs. You're always chasing that first high.
Yeah, it's a gateway drug to just worse meats. That was it. Beddington pizzas and kebabs. Yeah. Very fond memory. So I mean, we didn't really hang out there. I mean, we used to go to Blockbuster, and what I'd hate was back home. Me and my sister were allowed to watch almost as much TV as we wanted, but in terms of like going on the PlayStation, it was like no more than an hour a day. Really weird rule to impose. I think probably because it's harder to tear yourself away from in a TV show. Yeah. And on like a Friday night, I'd be allowed to go on for longer. This makes it sound like I had such a strict childhood. So looking back, it's like, actually, hang on a second, that was really horrible.
I don't think that's that unusual.
No, but I'd be allowed to go on for like 2 hours on a Friday,
Yeah.
and I'd be really excited about it. But then occasionally, and it was a really nice thing my parents did, and it was like really kind of them to do, but sometimes they'd be like, okay, Glenn, you can go on the PlayStation, or your dad and I have gone to Blockbuster, and we've got you this film. And you can't say no to that, because I've gone to Blockbuster, and it would always be a film for, even now, if you try and look it up, it doesn't even have like an IMDb page. It would be called like The Boy Who Could Fly. And you'd be like, what the hell is it? And it'd be like some Channel 5 afternoon movie-esque film from like the 70s, starring one person who's actually like someone like Olivia Newton-John, but like in her first movie role. And I'd sort of have to watch that. So the Blockbuster, actually, some pretty bad times there.
Is this where I go to school?
No, I've never been here.
Oh, right, sorry, man. I'm going.
Although having said that, there was a place. I don't actually. If you go back, because there was a place that might have since been knocked down. But there was a factory called Payne's Poppets. And do you remember the Chocolates Poppets? I don't know if they still sell them.
Yeah. Round balls of chocolate.
Yeah, so the Payne's Poppets factory was down this way.
Was it?
Something I do forget about my whole childhood was the whole area smelled of chocolate, like permanent.
Really?
Yeah. The whole area just completely smelled of chocolate.
Poppets specifically.
But just of like melted chocolate.
They had like toffee inside and
there we go. I think it's this building here on the right. And obviously it's going to be something different. Yeah, Boyden tiles.
Boyden tiles.
Yeah, but it was it smelled delicious. But the factory, I think, had they only operated a small bit of a factory because it had been downsizing so much as a business. So most of the factory was derelict. So it was really creepy. Yeah. And if you ever went past her at night, all you could hear was sort of smashing glass and stuff like that, because that's where people used to just sort of hang around. And it was quite a sort of dodgy area. But if we go back the way we came,
back
and that's
this way,
the school route, so round here it would smell like unbearably of chocolate.
That's crazy.
But it was great. And if, in fact, I think people who lived in the area probably kept the Poppets business alive because we were so sort of drawn in by the smell. We were probably the only people who really ate Poppets.
I used to eat Poppets, man. That is something I haven't thought about since.
Here we go. It's on the
left.
left
I used to enjoy
here.
a Poppet.
This is where I failed my second driving test.
Where am I going? Down. Do I need to go down the road?
You're going up and then you turn right here,
Right.
which is what I failed to do correctly, and myself a major.
So you're saying you weren't that rebellious?
Not at all.
Genuinely
not at all.
Do you have any rebellious period or not really? But okay, tell me where I'm going.
Keep going straight up. No, I don't think I ever did. Maybe at university. Do you know what? The first year at university, I was very, very quiet, and I was at school very, very quiet and very, very shy. I used to try and want to make people laugh and stuff like that, but never really but openly. And I used to be in like loads of school plays and things like that. So this was the walk to school. This is where it used to get sort of moderately sort of creepy. The pavement would just end here, and if you wanted to get on the other side of a bridge, you had to walk through this bit here, this really high railed area where no one driving past could see you. So a few sort of dodgy people would always hang out there.
Did you at least have a concave mirror to see if anyone was coming?
I should have done that, but then at the same time,
sometimes they have that on dodgy alleyways, don't they?
Yeah, you want to get home as quickly.
I don't
as
know
possible.
what they're going to do. Like you see some guy, all right,
and go right. Well, here's my
just
doom.
Turn around.
Yeah.
Well, go home.
But we had no choice but to go down that way. And there was this gang that used to sort of hang out around that sort of way.
Croydon street gang. So this is quite a rough area then.
Croydon's got a really bad reputation, but you just don't really see it. It's more like the crime is more sort of gang related, and it's between gangs. It's never.
But kid, just like
they're not going to bother kids.
Right?
They're only going to bother each other.
Yeah,
so you hear about bad stuff happening, but it's never going to happen to anyone you knew. People I knew who used to get the bus home. Almost everyone got mugged. And so me and my friends were one of about maybe like 6 people who didn't get mugged in my year. Because we just had such a short walk home. But this was the one terrifying bit of a walk home. And there was this gang who'd occasionally, as you walk past, they'd just yell like right in your ear. Yeah. But you always felt vaguely threatened by them, but you were never really sure if they were going to ever sort of do anything. But that was the only proper sort of way home. And the other way home ended up going under a bridge, which was a similar thing, where again you'd be separated from a traffic, and sometimes they'd hang out there. So your only 2 ways home was sort of potentially blocked off. And yeah, it was a massive stress. Like I sort of forget that every day walking home is a stress to some extent, because until you were past that bit, we preferred to walk past there because you get the fear out the way early. because the school's only about 5 minutes walk past there.
So is that a decision you'd have to have every day? It's
Yeah,
weird,
so
isn't it?
yeah.
We were talking about this before, weren't we? When you're at school, like that kind of threat of violence was around you all the time.
Yeah.
Whereas now, if something violent happens in your life, it's
I was quite
for
lucky.
me anyway. It's like a traumatic. I'll be thinking about that for
Same.
weeks
And so
and weeks.
I've definitely been quite lucky. Now down there was where one of my friends, Greg, lived, and a few of us used to hang out and basically play on like inset days and stuff at school. And it was sort of extreme and quite violent version of hide and seek, in which basically you sort of rugby tackled if you got found, because you had to chase the other. It wasn't just a case of I found you had to then chase the person and bring them down. But there was a huge network of alleyways there that made it so exciting to sort of be part of. But there was a school there on the right, and when it was my 18th birthday, my friend Greg went, "Oh, I've got you a present." And I was like, great. And he was like, you've got to come back towards my house. And I thought that's where the present was going to be. And he went, just bear me a second. And he ran into this school, which is where his younger cousin went, who was like 6 years old, came rushing back out and handed me a Game Boy that was like on, like middle of a game. And he was like, yeah, happy birthday, man. And I later found out he'd like wrenched it from his cousin's hands and just sort of given it to me. So that was most of my friends sort of lived in this sort of estate sort of around here. Just because it was more of an exciting place to sort of spend time, and a bit more vibrant than where I lived. Again, still everywhere sort of identical. But the school was back the other way. And so back onto that road. So yeah, I only really lived about 2 roads away from my school, and it was school was fine. It was quite sort of uneventful. There weren't any issues. I mainly sort of kept myself to myself. Like I had, I didn't really sort of dedicate myself to sort of one friendship group at school. I tried to flip around sort of as many as possible, and just avoided the ones where I knew it was like, well, I have nothing in common with these people. So,
and who would those be? The ones you didn't?
I'd say the people who were on the top football team, because it's a bit like any sort of sports star. I used to find this at radio stations I worked at. If ever I used to have to interview like people who are like my sporting heroes, you'd interview them and find they were really, really boring because they're at the top of their profession. It's all they can talk about. And it was the same weirdly with like the top, like unless you knew the most precise statistics about just lowerly about Carshalton Athletic, then you couldn't have a conversation with them, and so you just had nothing in common. But everyone on the whole was just everyone was quite nice. And so this is a school here. This is Michael Caine's old school. He was like the one sort of alumni that they really sort of went crazy for. Trying to think of anyone sort of notable. Have you ever seen Goose in Edinburgh?
No,
great,
I know the thing you mean.
Comedy duo, and Adam from there. He was in a year below me at school.
Was he? All right.
So yeah, this was like I felt I was quite lucky to get into this school. It was a really tricky exam to get into, and that was a swimming pool, and it was just nice. Everyone who went there was nice. The teachers were sort of nice.
So you didn't have a hard time with bullying or anything. It was just
no. I can't really think of anyone who really was bullied or who the bullies really were.
Really? Like there must have been a bit, man.
In different years, but you just avoided it was possible to just sort of avoid them because the years were quite big. You had like 120 to 150 people in every year.
Yeah.
It's not difficult to avoid the sort of like I'm not saying. In general, it's really easy to avoid bullies because it obviously isn't.
Are you sure you just weren't the bully and you're like, this school's great?
I was thinking about this today. I was sort of like, did I bully anyone? It's like, no, of course I didn't have a charisma. I didn't have a physical strength.
Charisma. I love that.
No, but if you're going to be a bully, you need to have people backing you up. No one's like a solitary bully.
Charismatic bullies. Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying.
So I think the people in a lot of people had tough times in sort of different years.
If you had the charisma, you would have done it though. If you knew you could have got away with it.
I don't think I had like the blind hatred for anyone. So I think obviously I can't speak, but it might have been people who had like a really dreadful experience and I didn't know about it. But so that's where I sort of grew up, and it was fine. I haven't been back around this area since. But it was pleasant enough. I mean, up there leads towards the Roundshaw estate, which was like the really rough area.
Yeah.
My great uncle lived there, and he had quite a difficult time sort of living there. And every time we'd sort of pick him up, it would be sort of like, right, lot the cars because you will get. And it was just a really. I think that might be one of the built. No, I think we might have gone past it, or it's a bit further along that way. But it was definitely sort of a dodgy area, which you just very much kept away from.
Cool, man.
It might have changed a lot.
So that's Croydon.
Croydon.
Any more thoughts on Croydon before we zoom off to the next
It's a nice place and it's got a bad rap. I had a really nice time there. Every time I go back, I sort of feel like I don't recognise it because it's changed so much. But And again, this is speaking from a very sort of sheltered, blinkered sort of existence. It's like I had a nice enough time there, and I know people who didn't have a nice time there. But yeah, it's a nice enough place. It feels like it should be a city. If only they just had a proper cathedral, then they'd be classified as one. It deserves to be a city.
Croydon Cathedral.
Yeah.
I like that. All right. So let's, I told you about this tonight, the clouds, where we look in the clouds.
Yeah, yeah.
Want to hit us with some music, Colin? Get some cloud music on there. So when you were a kid, did you ever do that? Lay on your back and look at the clouds?
No, because the weather was always so terrible. You never lay on your back anyway because it would just get horrible soggy back.
Be lying in a puddle.
Yeah, really, really unpleasant.
Well, here's your chance to.
Oh wow!
To see
I've
what
always
it's like.
wanted to do this.
So you see, does anything jump out at you there in the clouds?
Well, Pac-Man certainly does.
Pac-Man down here.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely.
Why are you saying Pac-Man in the clouds? Do you think that's because your dad? What do you think it is? It's not Friday night, Glenn.
I'm not what in terms of popping pills and running away from ghosts.
No, as in because your dad only let you go on the computer on Friday nights.
Yeah, you're right, but we did it. Pac-Man was
you're looking
way
for
before my
Pac-Man
time.
everywhere.
The first game I ever had was Streets of Rage 2 and
It was a
Golden
great
Axe
game.
and Shinobi.
Yeah.
It came in one package with a Sega Mega Drive 2. Yeah,
I remember that.
it was fantastic. Really fun memories.
Pac-Man.
But Pac-Man's a game I don't think I've ever actually I've ever played.
So this is where at home you get a chance to join in now. If you see any pictures in the clouds here, comment in, and then Colin's we're gonna give you a free mug, isn't it, Colin? The best cloud picture will win a free mug. This mug,
the best comment.
We haven't actually got one. So maybe I'm looking around this section. If you see any,
Yeah, I mean,
let your
there's
imagination
quite a
go crazy. What's that?
Anteater's mouth there, and the nose is sort of hanging over.
Oh yeah. It looks like Cyril Sneer.
Yeah, but it's or like a warthog. It's actually Pumbaa.
It's definitely a
I
face,
think.
man.
Pumbaa's the
Pumbaa.
warthog, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
It's
definitely
like
Pumbaa
eating
there.
this. Yeah.
This is
That's a face. That's like a laughing.
Oh, are you
Look at that
seeing the
eyes.
sky inside the?
Yeah, like the negative
This
space.
is
as
yeah.
well.
This
it
is the
can also
backwards.
be.
This is reverse United Kingdom.
Yeah.
isn't it?
Oh yeah.
In fact, that's pretty spot
It
on.
is
You've got
actually.
Norwich.
That's my
right
favourite wrestling move. Reverse.
there. Exeter there.
What we got? Colin's laughing over there. What are people saying?
No, I'm just laughing at reverse United Kingdom.
Reverse United. That looks like kind of a moon face.
Whereabouts is the moon?
Again, I'm looking at the blue bit here.
Yeah.
Well, it's like a weird kind of like a laughing.
Do you know
moon.
who that is? Do you know who that is?
Who is that?
If you consider the shape of the
Wesley.
head, the shape of the head being quite long, and you've got the eyes there, it's Earthworm Jim.
Shit, man.
Do you see Earthworm Jim there?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's definitely
It is
Earthworm
Earthworm Jim. This is all your repressed.
This is
your
quite
repressed
dated
computer
video game. Yeah,
memories
yeah.
are coming out.
Do you know? I'm so surprised that I didn't spend all my time at uni just playing video games. I sort of was able to then sort of restrict myself because that should have been a really boring rebellion. I should have then just spent the whole time playing on my PlayStation, but. I think it had been drilled into me, but it was like, no, hour a day.
I was never a computer game. I sort of played them. I don't think I ever played enough to ever complete a game.
Really?
Yeah.
I've always been obsessed. Always been absolutely obsessed. So I go through phases of not being that sort of interest, but now I've got, like, especially when you're in comedy, you sort of sometimes can tend to have a bit more free time in your hands because you're not like restricted to a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Or if you get back late at night and you know you don't have to be somewhere first thing in the morning, you end up playing later on into the evening, and so I've started to sort of find that again.
Yeah,
It was when I
yeah.
was at university and when I was first working, especially like
Yeah,
as
you
a
felt like you had
journalist,
something to do, yeah.
working ridiculously long hours that you don't really have time to do it. But yeah.
Yeah, you can definitely you sort of regress to being a kid again. All right, so let's so that's the clouds, and we'll come back. We'll tune back in about 10-15 minutes and see what people commented at home and pick the best one. And now we're going to go to here, which is the next chapter of your life.
Yeah,
right?
this was
So where's
disappointing.
this?
So I lived in Raleigh Avenue in Croydon, named as such because the head of Sir Walter Raleigh was buried just around the corner in a park. So I lived there until I was 18, and then so about 2 weeks after finishing my A-levels, my parents were like, I mean, I already knew this in advance, but they were like, we're going to move to a village called Hurstpierpoint. And I'd been there once because my school had compulsory choir for the first 3 years or so. that you were
Really?
there, because all the kids in year 7 had like high-pitched voices. So they need those in a choir. And every year would have to go to this choir off thing choir-y
Like a
competition.
competition?
Yeah, and weirdly, it was in Hurstpierpoint. If you go left,
Where is it? Where is that in the country?
so Hurstpierpoint's in West Sussex,
West
and
Sussex,
it's about the nearest train station is called Hassocks, and it's about a half-hour walk from here. So this is just it's just in the middle of a countryside, really difficult to get phone signal, really hard to get internet or anything like that. And in year 7, and I think again in year 8, we had to come here because down this road here, this is called College Lane, is this enormous, very sort of fancy sort of college. And so it was really weird to move to that village where that was the one bit of it I recognised. But it's a lovely village, and all the houses are sort of nice. A lot of Brighton players in the Premier League live like just off this road.
Oh, really?
And I don't know if I should have revealed that information. But it's a nice enough place. It's one of those places where it will probably be a pleasant place to live once you've like retired. And the fact that my parents haven't retired, the fact that they live there doesn't make any sense to me. So I spent a whole summer of not having any phone signal or anything like that. And all my friends live really far away, and the trains weren't that sort of regular. Like every train that goes between Brighton and London has to go through Hassocks, but just none of them stop there.
Yeah.
So you stand on a train platform and you're just buffeted by the wind of trains not stopping where you are. And if your train is in any way delayed, Hassocks is always the first station to go. If I always go to make up time, we're gonna cut out this station.
Fuck Glenmore. That's
yeah.
That's what the announcer says.
So this is. So the thing is, my parents have lived there a decade now, decade and a couple of months. And it's really pleasant. It's like in the summer, it's really lovely because it's this nice sort of English countryside village. And in the winter, it's really nice because it's already sort of cozy and it tends to sort of snow quite a lot there. And it's really, really picturesque. But my God, it's boring when you don't know anyone there. There's a little high street, which is back the other way. This leads all the way to the nearest town, which is Burgess Hill. But it's quite a way away.
I love Burgess Hill. Let's go there.
You don't know Burgess Hill? No, like... What is Burgess Hill? Burgess Hill is a Weatherspoons, an Ask, and it has a Lidl, and that's all I can really think of.
Three great things. Should we go back to the high street?
Let's go to the high street. Show the high street. The high street is lovely, and it's very sort of Richard Curtis movie-y, and I like it whenever I go back home for Christmas. I really enjoy the first couple of nights that I'm back home because it's cozy, and when we go to the pub in the village, sort of the first couple of evenings, and it's really nice. And it's only once the boredom really sets in that you go, I couldn't live here.
It's because you know no one there, though, right? I mean,
I don't know anyone there. Yeah. And the thing is, I sort of think maybe I should have sort of made the effort to, but
join a club or something, you know.
But it's difficult. Yeah, it's difficult.
Could have played bowls, made some friends with some old people.
It's difficult to go from a standing start. You know, like to go to not standing start, but you know, yeah.
So where do I go? Tell me if I'm going the right way.
So yeah, we keep going down College Lane. So that's on the left is just fields full of like horses and cows. So
you tell me you tried to walk to Brighton from here once?
Yeah, I did. So it's actually on the way to the high street.
How long does
not
that
Brighton,
take?
but it took me about 5 hours. Basically, there's a hill that you can see at certain places in Hurstpierpoint, and I thought, why don't I? Because I needed to get some uni work done. This was when I was like 2021, and I thought I'll go up there, and it's a really hot summer's day, and I'll sit there and I'll do some work there. And
procrastination walk
right here, yeah. And as soon as I got to that hill, I then found another hill in the distance. I thought, well, I'll go there. And it's like Forrest Gump, just keep on running.
Man. Anything to get away from revising.
So on the left here, that doesn't really go anywhere because it then turns into a sort of garden path. And there is the most luxurious old people's home I've ever seen, which is like Downton Abbey-esque. And there's loads of alpacas for no reason, just sort of wandering around there. And that it's a nice sort of Christmas walk sort of place to go. But I ended up just getting lost, and I ended up walking to Brighton. And as soon as I got to Brighton, I was like, what I'll do is I'll get to Brighton, and then I'll just get on the train and come back. And I got to Brighton and realised I just hadn't brought my wallet out with me because I hadn't expected to go that far. And then what I did was I spent, and I was starving as well. I had maybe like 20p, and I went on the 10p machines on Brighton Pier until I won enough money to buy some food and then get the train back. And then
they are high stakes, man.
All the trains were
cancelled. 20p?
All the trains are cancelled, so I had to walk back again. And it took like another 5 hours, and I got home at like midnight. And I trespassed in a farmer's field, and someone started taking pot shots with me, I think with an air rifle. Someone who lived on the farm. It was absolutely terrifying.
Oh my God.
So yeah, this is the walk down to the high street. And again, very sort of pleasant, but it's just nowhere near anything. We're now probably maybe like 30, 40 minutes walk to the nearest train station. And it's just quite sort of nice houses.
This is the high street.
And stuff like that. Yeah, I'm trying to think who lives in Hurstpierpoint. Gary Newman.
Does he?
Yeah, he
In
lives. I
cars,
think he might live on the high street. I'm not sure. Jimmy
Is that
Hill,
the guy?
until he passed away. Sorry,
Is that the guy, Gary?
Cars.
Yeah.
And Jimmy Hill used to live there when he died. Okay, so all the places in Hurstpierpoint, if you look at the shops, that none of them are like chains. They're all like individual, independent shops.
That's
all
good,
sell
though, right?
but they all sell like doilies and lace and stuff like that.
Type of
It's
shop
really-
where you think, how does this keep going?
yeah,
Like,
yeah, exactly. It's a sort of shop where people could travel from far and wide to go to buy this really specific thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's all places like it's not like an off license. It's like a whiskey shop, you know.
Self-known sellers.
Yeah, it's a nice old fashioned
Do you
thing.
ever
It's
go
like
in there?
a butchers and bakers. Yeah,
Get a hamper.
Whenever I go back whenever I go back just before Christmas, it's always really nice just to get just pastries, and it's so cozy and it's like a proper nice sort of Christmassy village. But the rest of the year, I'm not sort of too keen. And then a few doors down from here on the left, it's very much for sort of Christmas Eve sort of ritual. We go to the New Inn, which is that pub there, and it's really, really, really lovely, and it's all like low ceilings and roaring fires and just lots of wood and stuff. And we always go there, and then we have a Chinese takeaway on Christmas Eve, and it's like one of my favourite days of the year. That's the one bit of a Hurstpierpoint I just absolutely love, but that's more Chinese food related than like building related.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear you.
But that's only really sort of as
nice
far as
one.
I go. And that just around the corner is a library where it was the first time my parents ever saw me do stand up. Because
Was there a show on, or you just...
no, Stephen Grant, because he lives quite fairly sort of close to there, and obviously runs Comedia, ran a big sort of charity gig there. And so he basically got, this is when I'd only been going a couple of years, so he had his openers and closers were doubling up with Comedia, and then I was doing the middle spot, and so my parents had never seen me do stand up before, and all their friends in Hurstpierpoint hadn't seen me do it either. And fortunately, it sort of went well. But Joe Lycett was closing, and afterwards they gave Joe a lift to the train station. And it was before Joe like really got huge. And because my parents were under the impression that me and Joe, like obviously Joe's fantastic, but I think they're under the impression that me and Joe had like sort of started at the same time. So every time my parents see Joe on the TV, they're sort of like, your mate Joe seems to be doing better than you. What's going on? Why is he on the, and it's like, it's really dreadful to be sort of compared to that like the whole time. So it was a lovely gig. And that's pretty much, Hurstpierpoint. There's a tree there that has a really loud alarm to stop birds from
An alarm
shitting.
tree?
Yeah, an alarm tree.
Do they do that?
Yeah. And it's really, really weird. It makes a sound of like a cat or something like that
Aren't
screeching.
birds allowed to shit in trees?
No, it's because
shit
the
on people,
floor
right? Yeah,
is
yeah.
like absolutely caked.
It seems kind of unfair on the birds, though, right? Do you
Really
mean?
unfair on the
that's
birds.
their
Yeah.
toilet. Would you do if someone put an alarm on your toilet and didn't let you shit there?
Yeah, it's just not fair at all.
What's
and
this?
then
Do you know what that relates to?
That's a church there, and all the signposts, all the places that that are nearby, are all places that like Americans think British places are called.
Yeah.
Like Cuckfield and
Cuckfield,
Glasgow. I've never been
yeah.
to any of these places. Yeah, Hassocks is near, and also it's quite a remote place in that those are what all the signs are like. They're not those sort of government produced local council ones. It's all like hand painted wooden
nice,
ones.
That seemed like a nice place. So you lived here for a little bit, and
I only lived there for like 3 months.
And
my
then
parents,
went to
my
uni,
parents
right?
still live there. Yeah, my parents still live there, but I only come back for Easter, Christmas, and occasionally like over the summer.
Yeah.
For like a family.
So it's
get-together
kind
or
of
something.
home, but not home.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so
I
I've
hear
never really sort of gotten to know it sort of that well. I'm used to it, definitely.
you. Yeah. So I say let's. So you went to uni in Sheffield, right?
Yeah.
Would that be the next place?
That's definitely the next place. Yeah.
Right. So let's have a look at that.
So I lived in various places in Sheffield, but in quite a sort of close area. Because the student areas are so sort of close knit.
Yeah. And what'd you do? What'd you study?
I did English Lit,
Okay.
and I did my undergrad there, and then I did a master's in journalism, and so stayed on for like a 4th year, and then just before I finished the master's, I got a job at a radio station in Hillsborough, so like 3/4 of an hour walk away.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to juggle the two, which was
Which way? Tell me where to
horrible.
go. Where should we?
So the house that I lived in is just back this way. So Crooksmore Road is incredibly long, but this is like one of the main sort of studenty roads. And so I used to live at that one with the white door on the left,
This-
a bit further along. That one
Down
right
there.
there.
All right,
Yeah,
cool.
and I lived there with I think 5 other friends. And that was just absolutely the best. The only bad thing was I worked at a restaurant called Artisan, which I had to work at for say like 3 nights a week. and I hated it. I used to do Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I hated it so much that Sunday was the only day I ever truly felt relaxed because I'd finished.
Yeah.
And then on Monday, I'd wake up panicking, thinking I'm back at Artisan this week. Like
Yeah,
that would
yeah,
already
yeah,
be in my
yeah,
head.
yeah.
But it was lovely living there, and it was great living with people who were all involved in sort of like music and comedy and theatre and stuff like that. And when I was living in that house, that's when I did my first ever stand-up gig. Which was, it wasn't really stand-up as such, it was like comparing a comedy night because someone had dropped out. And then my first proper stand-up gig was like a week later doing the Chortle Student Comedy Award. So it was, so I've got like loads of really early sort of comedy-based memories. And the first ever time I did Thunderbirds, my sketch duo, first ever show we did that just down the road from here, actually.
What made you want to do it, man? What was your...
to do
reason for
stand-up?
getting into comedy?
The gig I sort of had to host, I was forced into, so it was never really something I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I definitely wanted.
Did
to
that give you a little taste for it?
No, I didn't enjoy it. Really didn't enjoy it. No, there was I was panicking so much. I wrote some jokes for it, and some of those jokes ended up remaining in my set for like years. I think I still probably do some of them. And then I entered the Chortle competition because actually I was like, it went well, so let's give that a go. And then that went well, and then I didn't gig again until like the semi-finals, and then that went well, and then I went up to do the final in Edinburgh, and maybe did like 2 practice gigs with like the Cambridge Footlights because they always used to host a free comedy shop there. And that really wasn't enough. That really wasn't enough to do gigs, and so I did the final and sort of really didn't enjoy myself in the final. Thought I'd have a really bad gig, but it was weird. And by that point, but I wasn't really gonna. I sort of decided if I win, I'll try and pursue it, and if I don't win, then I won't. And I came second, and it was like, right, that's a tricky one. I lost that to Adam Hess, who went to my school's rival school in
really?
Croydon. So he's from sort of Croydon area, sort of as well. But I never met him until we did this gig together. And so from then on, I thought, okay, I might do a couple of gigs, and then did a couple more competitions the next couple of years, and thought, actually, this is quite good fun. But it was when I literally just started working as a newsreader for like the first time, but like it's the job I'd been sort of gearing up towards for like a decade. Yeah. So on the right is Crooks Valley Park, and Crooks Valley Park is absolutely lovely. There's like it's mostly just an enormous lake, and just a pathway going around it, but it's absolutely gorgeous. And if ever a friend came up to visit you while you're at uni, and I used to go and visit my friends at different unis. They'd always take you on like the nicest route from a train station to their house to really sort of show off. And so if you wanted to show off,
I went to uni in Sheffield as well.
You'd go around Crooks Valley Park.
I was right the other side of town though. I think I probably did go here. But
were you nearer to the train station?
I was near the Botanical Gardens. I live next to
Botanical Gardens
Hatton,
is lovely. Yeah.
So that would be my go-to place.
Is that just off Glossop Road? Is that?
It's off, what's that road? Can't remember. It's near, towards the Hallam.
This is Western Park. So this is where most people used to do their revising in the summer. And when I was working, so after I'd graduated, I went walking home through there once, and I thought I was the only person in the park. And then I saw someone who was this really tall, really emo sort of looking guy who must have been like 6'8", 6'9", or something like that. Possibly. We'll never know. But he was sort of standing in the middle of a sort of gateway and looked a bit like in a zombie film. It would be the first zombie they see where they don't know that's a zombie. Do you know what I mean? That sort of the vibe he sort of gave off. And so I thought, I don't really want to use that sort of exit. So I sort of changed my direction a bit. Turned around, he wasn't at the gate anymore, but also was now on the same pathway as me and was sort of walking towards me. And I was sort of circling around the park thinking, is this guy following me? And he was for ages. This is like 2 a.m. or so in Sheffield. And walked past like the Arts Tower and stuff like that. Got back to my house. And was like running by this point because every time it was like It Follows. He was just constantly there. Got to my house, and obviously that road is just, it's like we were number 300 and something. So there's hundreds of houses. Got back home and I was on the ground floor. And after about 5 minutes, I just heard this like bashing on my window, but didn't let up for like an hour. And so it was just knocking on my window for ages. And it was absolutely terrifying.
Did you ever find out what it was?
Well, it must have been him because he was. But I sort of had like 999 ready to sort of go, and the moment I pressed dial, they picked up, and then it sort of stopped from there, and then I just sort of went, I'll ring back in a second.
There's no way on your mind like you'll never know who that guy was?
No, I'll never know. I don't really think about it as sort of much because it was just
but I mean, straight after you must have been like,
I couldn't sleep for like ages. Yeah, it was horrible.
So more annoying.
I never walked through that park again, especially like not at night or anything like that. Yeah, it was really strange.
Maybe it's one of those guys from the Croydon street gang that
Yeah.
Never got you at the time, and just.
This was the
man.
road sort of down to university.
So where did you used to frequent, man? Did you ever?
So I used to
Lead Mill.
Lead Mill was one of my favourites.
I'm trying to
But
remember
Plug
all
was
my-
absolutely my favourite.
Plug,
Plug
yeah,
was
yeah,
great.
yeah.
So this was a massive roundabout down here. Where's this? Have we crossed the roundabout?
Yeah,
we have. So if we go up this way, so that's the IC. That's the massive like 24-hour library that would be open like 24 hours a day, even on like New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, that sort of thing. And the amount of all-nighters I sort of pulled in there was just so depressing. I'd go in at like midday.
So you're quite studious then. You were quite serious.
Well, no, it was all-nighters in that I'd left the essay to the last minute.
Yeah.
So I never handed in an essay late.
I thought every day.
I was quite
24 hours a day.
I was
whole
quite nerdy in that I never missed a seminar. I missed lectures. I never missed a single seminar. So I was quite sort of studious in that regard. But essays, I just couldn't. If I had an essay due in 2 weeks, then 2 weeks beforehand, I just wouldn't do any work for it. Or I'd be like, well, it's 2,000 words. I'd write 1,000 words full of like, I'd write all the therefores and ands, and I'd be like, well, I'm probably going to write and 100 times. So that's 100. So I just put and in 100 times and be like, oh, I feel really good now. Yeah. But I just didn't know how to write an essay properly until my third year, where I actually started properly reading the stuff that was on. So that was the English department building there. Henderson's Relish building. That's the factory right there.
Yeah.
So always
that's like
heard,
Sheffield's version of what's the sauce? Right?
Yeah, so like Croydon smelling of Payne's Poppets. This very much smell of Henderson's Relish.
Old
a lot.
Henderson's Relish. It's pretty much Sheffield people are very proud of it. It's pretty much just Worcester
It's
sauce.
not that nice.
Just the same.
So down this way in the corner is the Harley. And so
remember
Harley, that's
that.
where the Arctic
Yeah,
Monkeys
see,
played
now
one
you're
of their
getting
first
to
gigs.
places
That's where
that I
they used
remember,
to. Yeah. And then it's this is Glossop Road, isn't it? I'm certain it's Glossop Road. And it leads all the way. That's for hospital.
I'm forgetting all the names. West Street's around here somewhere, right?
Yeah, this is West Street on the left.
That's West Street.
So West Street, it's really weird. I mean, I'm going back there to do a charity gig at my university next week, and I'm gonna get there as early as I possibly can because I want to spend some time walking around down West Street and
man.
and Division
I go
Street.
back there sometimes. Yeah,
Division
yeah,
Street, the one parallel
that's
to it, was
the
all
one,
the sort of more
yeah.
like bohemian
It's
sort of
all the
shops.
clothes shops and
But
that.
every time I go back, it's changed so dramatically.
Oh, man.
All the restaurants
Yeah.
are closed down. Have all been replaced by other things.
Big time. Good place though, Sheffield, man.
Yeah, so the Students' Union was back the other way, and then this was a great parade of carrying along West Street. Aslan's, Bargain Booze.
Aslan's,
I used to go to Aslan's a lot. Back in the days where it's like I physically couldn't put on weight if I tried, and so would just eat kebabs every day. And then the Cavendish, that's a Cavendish on the left, with the amazing cheesy chips. And I'd always go there between like a lecture and a seminar if you had like a spare hour. West Street I didn't really go out a great deal on because the student nights at the Union was so good that most of you stayed there.
Tuesday Club. Is that a good one?
Tuesday Club was the proper sort of drum and bass one.
Yeah.
But unless you'd had like a lot of ecstasy, you couldn't really enjoy yourself because everyone was topless and sweaty.
Yeah.
And you'd get there and be sort of like, no amount of alcohol could get you in the mood for that. It had to be like ecstasy.
That was me every
And
Tuesday. No drugs.
Did you ever go to Tuesday Club?
Yeah. No drugs, but I just like taking my top off.
It was
And I
that's
just sweat a lot.
that's the one I didn't really go to. And then there was Raw was on Wednesday, but that was all the sports teams ones. And if you ever wanted to get a ticket for that, sold out way in advance. But if you ever wanted to get a ticket, you just hung around in a student bar long enough, and a rugby player would essentially die of alcohol poisoning, and their friend would be dragging them out. And if you said to them like, "Is your friend realistically going into Raw?" I'd be like, "No," they'd just give you his ticket. So that was like the cheapest way to get in. They had a great on Thursday nights. They used to have a night called Fuzz Club, which stopped after a couple of years.
I remember that.
And you'd have good
Lots
bands,
of bands playing,
and then
yeah.
after the band stopped, it would then be a really good club night where it was indie rock music. But I think I saw Scroobius Pip. Late of the Pier, who at the time was like, they're going to be bigger than the Claxons, and then they just stopped. But I had a great time at the Union.
Awesome, man. All right, I say we check back in. Did anyone you got any good clouds, Colin?
We had no cloud comments.
No cloud. That's so
It's
sad.
depressing.
That is so
Yeah,
depressing.
you really opened up
last week they were fucking smashing it.
That's Sheffield City Hall. I only saw one show there. I saw Greg Davies' show, Firing Cheese Balls at a Dog. This was when I was about 19, and I'd been to maybe like one or two stand-up shows before that. I'd been to see like Lee Evans and Jimmy Carr at massive sort of venues, and so obviously this was still huge, but sort of smaller than those. I saw Greg Davies supported by Ed Gamble, and I found Ed Gamble funnier than Greg Davies at that. That was fantastic, but also it was just I saw quite a lot of comedy at Sheffield. The main chain was Last Laugh. That was which is Toby Foster's.
Oh yeah.
Night.
That's right near where I live. The Les
Car. But I never went to those. So the only sort of comedy you'd see would be like for whatever was on at the arena or on at the City Hall. But there was a student comedy festival at the Union, which me and a few friends sort of helped sort of organise. And I remember seeing the Cambridge Footlights when I was maybe 19 or 20. And it was really good. Like the people who were in Cambridge Footlights at the time, it was a couple of guys from The Pin. I think Liam Williams was in it.
Oh, yeah.
A couple of people who were in Minor Delays. It was, and I remember watching that at the age of like 19 or 20, and I couldn't believe people my age at the time could be that funny. I just couldn't. But the fact that they just knew exactly how to write and tell jokes was just that. It could just absolutely blew my mind at the time. That was amazing. This is Embraces there around the corner, isn't it? Embrace is a horrible nightclub where basically on Freshers Week they'd have like Ron Jeremy.
Oh yeah. I think I remember going there. I
Banks,
think I went there on
the Venga Boys.
Freshers Week, and they're like.
Whoever had been evicted from Big Brother that week.
Yeah. I hate it. I love university, but I remember like Freshers Week and all that. Once you find your own people, it's good, but that kind of organised fun bit at the beginning.
We just go to the most vague nightclubs you can where there's no... They just play whatever. It was always just Rihanna's Umbrella.
Yeah.
Play it like 4
but I remember
times
that Freshers Week when it was like on stage and then there's like 2 people up there and there's some like creepy combat guy encouraging them to strip.
Oh, God.
And it was like... I was remember thinking, is this even fucking legal? Do you know what I mean? It's
I remember.
It's fucking horrible, man. Some like, how old are you? Like some 18-year-old girl up there. Everyone's going. I imagine it's the sort of shit that happens in Ibiza, man. I've never gone on that.
Did you ever go to Corporation?
It's fucking weird. I went there all the time. I used to like that.
Yeah, Corporation was like a real go-to.
I used to
for
enjoy
me,
that.
I remember seeing,
but they were
Timmy
not very
Mallet.
strict on the IDs.
Timmy Mallet was there, and he was encouraging girls to get their tops on and stuff. And it was just so depressing. It was really horrible to witness.
Yeah. It's weird, man.
What's
up, Colin? Colin's got something to
say. No cloud comments. So I suppose that means a rollover 2 mugs next week.
A roller, yeah.
We did get a
to win 2 mugs. Wow.
2 mugs. It's a rollover. Did get a comment on, as you were talking about Craig Davies, Glenn. Angus Tracy is asking, can we see you on Taskmaster someday?
I love that. It's a great show.
Well, we can start that trending. He's requested it.
I've specifically requested
there
it.
we go.
Yeah, I'm going to get in touch with my agent.
We'll see what we can do.
So can you do something, please?
This is where the chatter is starting.
Yeah.
There we go. Taskmaster. Let's see what we can do.
Unless she was directing that at you, in which case, do you want to be?
Maybe.
On
I would love to. Thank you.
I'll ask for clarity and see who was directed at.
It's down towards the train station, isn't it?
Where is this now?
Yeah, the train station's down that way.
Down there.
So that's down towards Hallam.
Awesome. So let's pretend we're getting on the train and go to your next stop, shall we? Which is... You told me you lived
Which is all the way to London.
You told me you lived in Leicester Square, didn't you?
I have at times.
So let's jump on the 234.
Down to King's Cross and get the Northern Line.
And here we are in Leicester Square.
Yeah, when I was...
I looked at my hand there. I'm not even wearing a watch.
When I was... from the age of about 24, 25, until about a month and a half ago, I was doing freelance news reading at the global radio stations, which are... Oh, God. What have I done? Which are in that building right there.
So we're in Leicester Square, right? We're in
in Leicester Square. So that's where like LBC, Radio X, Capital, Capital Extra, Classic, what else? Smooth, Gold, all those were there. And I used to, because I was working there freelance, you're only ever booked if you're replacing someone else. And obviously they need people on weekends, so I'd always work weekends. So I'd have my main gigs of the week would be on a Friday and Saturday night, and then I'd get back to London and would almost always be reading the news on LBC at say 4:30 in the morning. So often it was just easier to just go straight to Leicester Square and stay the night there. So I used to sleep.
So you'd be like this guy. In fact, is that you?
That's not me. I used to sleep in the building. I never slept outdoors, but it would be a really weird sight of going up to like say the 6th floor and just looking down, and it just Leicester Square absolutely rammed with people going out to terrible nightclubs on a Friday and Saturday. And then I'd try and set my alarm hoping that I'd have enough battery to wake me up in the morning, and then it would go off at 4:15, which would be just enough time to sort of wash my face, put my shoes back on, and start reading the news, and I just feel so disgusting.
Wow, man, that must be brutal. But that's what you're doing now, right? How early do you have to get up to do your...
I get up at 5, which isn't too bad. I'd say as long as I'm in bed by midnight on a weekday, then I usually won't feel disgusting afterwards. I'd say I went to bed shortly after midnight last night, and I feel fine.
You look fine.
It's sort of okay. And also, the breakfast show's so short because it's only 6 till say 9:30, 10, and then I go home after that. Whereas when it was LBC, it was like 4:30 till like 12:30. And then as soon as I'd finished, I'd have to get a train up to say like Nottingham and do jonglers that evening. Knowing full I'd have to go and sleep back at that building again. There was a shower there and stuff, so you could technically live there, but also they the security guards were always very, very clear about saying, look, if you sleep in here, that means they lose their insurance because they become classified instead as they're not a business anymore. They become like a residence or something like that. So you weren't allowed to sleep. So it was half sleeping, half evading the security guards and trying to work out.
Could you wear those glasses with eyes on them? So
I should have done that. Just resting. But they
Is that what you're doing now? No.
They were.
You just slept talked the whole.
You'd have to sort of try and work out which floor was the one they'd most recently sort of patrolled, so you could then go and sleep on there, knowing you'd get like a.
Could you go in a
couple of hours
toilet? Could you
before
sleep in a?
No,
toilet
but the sofas were quite nice. But the problem is, all the lights weren't switch activated; they were motion activated, and once they were activated, they'd be on for like 2 hours. So I'd get out the elevator, and I would just sort of go really, and it would always be just as you're clambering in.
Stressful night.
It was probably just clambering in, and the lights would just go doom, 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 just like spotlights, and they'd be on for the whole night. And then sometimes you wake yourself up in the middle of the night just by moving slightly, and the light would come on. So I slept badly for like years. It's one of those things.
I couldn't do that, man.
You never always say like if you look back on when you first started doing stand-up, you'll be so surprised that you ever bothered, because it was like going all the way to like Devon for 5 minutes unpaid and stuff like that. But it just seemed so normal at the time. It just seemed so completely normal. And this again just seemed like it was like, well, I've got to earn money, and the main nights in terms of gigging are Friday and Saturday, and my main work is always in radio is always going to be Saturday and Sunday. Those are my hell. Like Saturday was always my least favorite day of the week, and it feels so weird now for the first time to, obviously I still have to sort of gig on Friday and Saturday nights, but to have like a lie-in on a Saturday, it's like the first time I've done that since I was like 22 or something like that. It feels really, really weird. But yeah, this was the worst place I ever lived. Easily.
Leicester Square. And where are you living now?
I live in Willesden in northwest London.
So we can round it off by talking about your current.
Yeah, so I've recently moved
home.
house, but up until about a month or two ago, this is the road I lived on. I lived on a place called King's Road, which was just one long strip of like, uninterrupted strip of houses. Not a gap of daylight between them. And it was really, really nice. Really quite like, it's one of those sort of pointless roads where no one would ever have any reason to drive through it. That was always the polling station, that place on the end. I don't know what it's used for the rest of the year. And this road is where a few months back there was a terror raid, and a terror suspect was shot and injured in one of these houses along here. So that was a very and so I couldn't go back to my house that evening because they'd sort of blockaded. Obviously that wasn't like the primary concern, but I think that was a night I spent in Leicester Square probably.
Oh my God.
So I moved there from Sheffield. I sort of decided most acts and every sort of agent I'd spoken to had all said sort of like, if you want sort of representation, or if you want to be able to gig as much as you sort of can, then you either have to live in a city that's got a bigger comedy community than Sheffield has. Sheffield's got way bigger comedy community than it did at the time. So even move somewhere like Manchester, or maybe Newcastle or somewhere like that, or it moved to London.
Or London,
and
it sucks everyone in the end.
Yeah, so I just decided, I spoke to my family about it, and they were way more supportive than they should have been, because I was sort of like, this job I've spent like years preparing for, to be a sort of newsreader, I'm just going to quit that, please, if that's all right. And
you're doing both now, man. That's great. You got
I moved to London, and I moved to London and maybe had like a week's wages to sort of survive on before I had to find something. I had nothing planned. I just quit my job and moved in with some friends. And it was nice because I was living with like 4 really close friends who were all in sort of the same boat.
Comedians?
No, just people I was friends with at uni. And I had like a week to find any temp job I could. And so I started working at like places like temping at places like Thames Water and stuff like that. And I really started to miss newsreading. I was sort of determined to quit it completely. And then I started to apply at places like Sky News and started working there on the weekends. So I was working like 7 days a week and then gigging like 9 times a week or something like that. So that first week was just... That first year I lived there was really, really intense. But I've lived in Willesden since like middle of 2013 or so, and I really like it. This goes further away from sort of the centre of London, so I live back sort of the other way. This goes towards the sort of slightly sort of dodgier end of Willesden, but I say dodgier end of Willesden, all of it's quite pleasant. It's sort of nice enough, but it's just very sort of generic sort of Northwest London sort of place. But also, being in Northwest London is quite convenient when you get back very late from a gig. It's easy to be dropped off at places.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like just inside
Well,
the
if
North
you're coming
sector.
from
And
the
it's,
north, yeah.
So I couldn't really imagine living. I mean, I could imagine living somewhere else, but like it's a nice enough sort of fairly sort of uneventful sort of place. And it's just easy to get to gigs too and stuff like that. And it was always easy getting to work at 5 a.m. and stuff like that. And it's easy enough getting into Absolute Radio at ridiculous o'clock. So yeah,
Awesome.
Fine.
Perfect, man. So let's so to very end it off, we're going to go back through all your places in time to the world. And hang on, is this? Yeah, this is Croydon. All right.
Yeah,
so
this
let's
is towards
imagine
the Roundshore Estate.
this is how we like to end it. So if you saw the young Glenn Moore walking by here, say 10 years old,
Yeah.
and you could give him some advice, what would you say?
Turn around, leave Roundshore immediately. What the hell are you doing here, man? You're gonna get
Get out
yourself
of this
killed.
place.
That would be the immediate advice. In terms of long-term advice, start stand-up at university earlier.
At 10.
Yeah.
Imagine you start at 10.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of people who have started ridiculously young. Well, we're talking about Kelsey D'Almeida and Ed Knight or people like
Who
Tom
also
Lucy,
live
who are
around
just
here,
like
right?
so
Yeah.
terrifyingly young. Especially because I did a gig with Kelsey, who lived in sort of the same area of Croydon that I used to, lives there at the moment, and Ed Knight, who lives in that sort of area as well. It was it was like the last week before Jongleurs closed down. We did Jongleurs Southampton. And doing gigs like Jongleurs, I was always so used to being the youngest person on the bill for a decade. And so it was really weird to be the oldest by like 5 years or so. It was really, God, it was upsetting. Really, really,
But I think
really
when you
sad.
start, man, when you're much, much younger, you have less fear, definitely.
Yeah,
Is that true
but
for
that's the
that
thing.
arrogance
I
of
wish
youth
I'd done
type thing?
gigs.
Yeah.
There wasn't really any stand-up at university. There was like an improv group, and that was it. And then Matt and I started doing Thunderbards, but we were just putting on like hour-long shows. There was there was no way you could do a comedy night and just do
jump
5
straight
minutes.
into that.
Our first set was an hour long.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the second set, because we knew it was going to be our friends again, we had to write a brand new hour for like a month later. So the first 3 shows we did was like 3 brand new hours. But the stuff we wrote back then, like I would never perform it now. But it was, we think it was good for what it was at the time because we just had no fear at all. Because university is such a sort of, obviously it's criticised as such being sort of a real sort of safe space environment. But in terms of material, you can be so much more experimental there. Whereas as soon as you start doing the sort of, if you're doing you start off doing like open spots at clubs, you have to adapt yourself to what you know the audience has come out specifically for. You can do those jokes that are going to entertain people on like a big night out and, you know, celebrating their birthday or wedding or something like that.
Yeah, you can definitely indulge yourself a bit more. Awesome. Right, I think that'll do, man. All right, so all that's left to do now. Did you have a fun time clicking through?
I did have a fun time. I think this is the most I've spoken at length about anything.
It's brilliant, man. It's really fun looking at all the different places. So let's zoom out into the world now. Colin's bumping our Dave Green Street View Show theme music.
That's where I lived, yep.
There he is. So I've been Dave Green. He's been Glenn Moore. Make sure you subscribe on the channel. There's going to be different comedians every week looking at different places all around the world. And that's it. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I've been Dave Green. Good night.